Hello and welcome to the Myschool channel. My name is Angela, and in this video we're going to be tackling the JAMB past question for the year 2000 for literature in English. Please stay with us, don't go anywhere, we'll be right back. Welcome back to the Myschool channel. Like I said earlier, we're going to be tackling the JAMB past question for literature in English for the year 2000. So we're moving on to questions 26 to 50. Let's begin with question 26. So this question is based on selected poems from these collections. The pervasive mood of the speaker in Michali's Nightfall in Soweto is that of A, elation and joy, B, terror and insecurity, C, darkness and threats, and D, celebration and freedom. The answer to this question is option B, terror and insecurity. So Oswald Michali's Nightfall in Soweto is a poem talking about the brutality of the law officers in Soweto, a slum in South Africa. So it talks about how there is someone clasping a dagger that is designed to create fear in the minds of the people of Soweto. They also mention how man has ceased to be man, man has become beast. So all of this shows the terror and insecurity that the people of Soweto feel as the law officers come to torment them at night. They do not come during the day, they only come at night to threaten the inhabitants of this slum in Soweto. So the answer to this question is option B, terror and insecurity. Question 27. Again, this question is based on poems from these collections. The stanza form of Mapanje's When This Carnival Finally Closes is A, a sonnet, B, an irregular verse, C, an address, and D, a free verse. So the answer to this question is option D, a free verse. A free verse is a type of poem that doesn't contain any rhyme scheme or meter. Okay, so this particular poem is a free verse. The reason Mapanje writes this poem as a free verse is so that readers will not focus on the musicality of the poem, but rather on the message of the poem. You can see that there is a lot of enjambment in this poem. The line runs on from one line to another. This helps to focus the readers on the message of the poem rather than on its rhythm, on its musicality. So the answer to this question is option D, a free verse. Question 28. Again, this question is based on the poems from these collections. The dominant images in Ni Oshindare's They Too Are the Earth are A, disease, illness and death, B, aristocracy, affluence and wealth, C, poverty, suffering and the downtrodden, and D, greed, aristocracy and the ambitious. So the answer to this question is option C, poverty, suffering, and the downtrodden. So this poem by Ni Oshindare is talking about how certain marginalized members of the society are supposed to be regarded as parts of the society, parts of the earth. So it's talking about the beggars in the society, the laborers, those people who make use of their hands to toil day and night. It's also talking about the women who have been regarded as a stronghold for the African people during times of slavery. So it's talking about how these marginalized members of the society are meant to be treated as parts of society, regardless of where they come from and what they do. So the answer to this question is option C, poverty, suffering, and the downtrodden. Question 29. Again, the poem is based on these collections. It is not yet dawn, and we wake from one nightmare to another. In these lines from Mojaide's The Owl Wakes Us, the mood is that of A, terrifying dream, B, seemingly endless night, C, vicious cycle of oppression, and D, persona's experience. So the answer to this question is option C, vicious cycle of oppression. So the poem by Tanura Mojaide, The Owl Wakes Us, is talking about how there is a continuous cycle of the same thing going on over and over again in an African society. So the political system is still the same. We still have the same terrible leaders over and over again. So he says it is not yet done and we wake from one nightmare to another. So we keep having one nightmare after another in our African society as a result of these are leaders who do not care about the common people, but rather about their selfish gains. So the answer to this question is option C, vicious cycle of oppression. Question 30. In Browning's My Last Duchess, the poet's persona's attitude towards the Duchess is that of A, anger, B, love, C, sadness, and D, scorn. So the answer to this question is option D, scorn. So the poem My Last Duchess is a poem by Robert Browning. It's talking about how the Duke of Ferrara, who is the poet's persona in this poem, discusses how he has this resentment for his late wife, who he believes was very flirtatious and doesn't regard him with the proper respect that he deserves. So as a result of that, he explains how he silenced her. The fact that he silenced her suggests that he actually killed her at the end of the day. All of this shows that he has this coldness towards her. It suggests that he has scorn towards his late wife, who is the last duchess in this poem. So the answer to this question is option D, scorn. Question 31. Again, this question is based on these collections. In Ode on a Grecian Urn, John Keats is concerned with A, the impermanence of the Grecian urn, B, human and eternal love, C, the youthfulness of lovers, and D, everlasting beauty of art. So the answer to this question is option D, everlasting beauty of art. In John Keats' poem Ode on a Grecian Urn, John Keats talks about how art is everlasting, it lasts for a very long time. He's talking about a particular kind of art, a kind of art that is displayed on this Grecian urn. So he says that it lasts for a very long time. He talks about how music cannot be compared to this type of art because music is not as permanent as this. He also talks about how even the scenes that are displayed on the urn, when they happen actually in real life, they are not permanent, they are fleeting. The only thing that is permanent is those scenes that are displayed perfectly on this Grecian urn. So it shows how art is everlasting, it lasts forever. So the answer to this question is option D, everlasting beauty of art. Question 32. The term for the moral flaw or weakness that leads to the downfall of a major character in drama is A, chaos, B, hamartia, C, denouement, and D, reversal. The answer to this question is option B, hamartia. Hamartia is a term used in Greek tragedy to refer to the fatal flaw, that moral weakness of the main character, of the hero in a tragic work that eventually leads to his downfall. So the term for the moral flaw or weakness that leads to the downfall of the major character is hamartia. Our answer to this question is option B. Question 33. The figure of speech in which a character makes a statement that has or would have deep and serious implication in the play is A, aside, B, euphemism, C, dramatic irony, and D, textual contrast. The answer to this question is option B, euphemism. So euphemism is a figure of speech that helps to milding the effects of something that would otherwise have a deep and serious impact on the listener. So for example, you make use of the sentence, "He kicked the bucket," to show that someone has just died. So this helps to soften the blow of something very impactful, something that can have a deep impact on the listener. So euphemism is the best answer to this question because most of the other options are not figure of speech. Aside and dramatic irony are dramatic devices, they are not figures of speech. Aside is used when you actually want to tell the audience something that other characters in the play do not have any knowledge of. They are not listening at that time. You are speaking directly to the audience. You want to give the audience a vital piece of information that the characters on stage have no knowledge of. Then dramatic irony is when the audience knows something that some characters on the stage do not know. So it can have an impact on what is going on in the play, but it is not usually a statement. It's more of an action. Sometimes it can be a statement. But the important thing is that dramatic irony is not a figure of speech. Textual contrast is a figure of speech, but it helps to show the difference between two different scenarios, two different ideas, two different things. So it's a figure of speech, but it has nothing to do with making a statement that has a deep or serious implication in a play. It's mostly used in poetry. So the best answer to this question is option B, euphemism. Question 34. A character who does not develop or experience change in the course of his or her existence in a novel is A, round character, B, flat character, C, rounded character, and D, major character. The answer to this question is option B, flat character. A flat character is a character that does not develop throughout the novel or the play or whatever literary work it appears in. So this particular character usually have one or two traits and doesn't develop. So it just helps to contribute to the plot structure of the story. An example is Mr. Noble in Buchi Emecheta's Second Class Citizen. We understand that Mr. Noble is a Nigerian immigrant who moved from Nigeria to the UK for greener pastures, but eventually did not get anywhere with that. He is a flat character because his character doesn't develop, unlike Ada, the main character, who develops as the story moves on. You discover that there is a change in her, she begins to understand the things that are going on. A character like Ada is regarded as a round character because at the beginning she was naive, she was innocent, but eventually she learnt a lot as the story progressed. But Mr. Noble, we only discover little bits of details about him. He doesn't develop throughout the story. He's just this one person who has just one or two traits that exemplifies how certain Nigerian immigrants are treated in the European society. So the answer to this question is option B, flat character. Question 35. A panegyric poem is composed to A, abuse, B, condemn, C, praise, and D, elaborate. The answer to this question is option C, praise. A panegyric poem is a poem that is designed to praise a person, a thing, or an idea in order to elevate it. So the answer to this question is option C, praise. Question 36. The narrator in a prose work who is also a character is A, subjective narrator, B, objective narrator, C, omniscient narrator, and D, participatory narrator. The answer to this question is option D, participatory narrator. A participatory narrator, also a first-person narrator, is a narrator that is also a character in a play, in a prose work. So you see a lot of the use of the pronoun I and me in such literary work. So that person is actually a character and he's also the one narrating the story. So he has a subjective idea of everything that is going on in the story. The entire story is usually based on his own perspective on the events that are unfolding around him or her. So the answer to this question is option D, participatory narrator. Question 37. A primary ballad is associated with A, educated people, B, urban folk, C, the nomads, and D, rural folk. The answer to this question is option D, rural folk. So a primary ballad is a type of poem that describes the countryside, how the countryside looks like. So it makes use of direct language to talk about everyday situations in the countryside. So option D, rural folk, is the answer to this question. Question 38. A trilogy is the A, sequence of 3 one-act drama written by the same author, B, set of 3 plays written by the same authors, C, collection of 3 poems of equal length, and D, series of related stories divided into 3 equal parts. The answer to this question is option D, series of related stories divided into 3 equal parts. So a trilogy consists of 3 different volumes of the same story. So it actually has the same characters, the same storyline. It also focuses on a central theme. All of these 3 plays are sequences of a particular story. So 3 of them make up a trilogy. The answer to this question is option D. Question 39. A novel which focuses on the adventures of a rogue who does not change much in the course of the story is A, Romanesque, B, a grotesque, C, picaresque, and D, burlesque. The answer to this question is option C, picaresque. A picaresque novel is a novel that focuses on the adventures of a particular character known as a picaro or a rogue, or an adventurous lower class protagonist who goes on several adventures, but he doesn't develop through the course of the story. So his adventures lead him to different places, and that is what makes the story interesting. It doesn't change. There is no development in the course of the story. So the answer to this question is option C, picaresque. Do you know you can take practice questions with a simulated JAMB CBT past question? All you need to do is to go down to the link in the description below. This takes you to the Myschool website, where you can download the Myschool mobile app for your Android devices and the Myschool software for your laptops and computers. Please go ahead and start practicing. Now to question 40. The term given to a type of incident or device which recurs frequently in literature is A, motif, B, ritual, C, myth, and D, concept. The answer to this question is option A, motif. A motif is something that recurs in a particular literary work to help to illustrate a particular theme, the message of the work. An example is the tumultuous weather that we can see in Emily Bronte's Wuthering Heights. So this tumultuous weather is regularly reoccurring, especially when there is heightened emotion in the story. So that is an example of a motif. It reoccurs, and we'll begin to understand what it symbolizes in the story. The answer to this question is option A, motif. I believe you're enjoying this content. If yes, please do not forget to hit the like button, click on the subscribe button, and lastly tap on the notification bell to get informed as soon as we release the next videos. Question 41. Using the name of one thing for something else with which it is closely associated is an instance of A, parody, B, paradox, C, parallelism, and D, metonymy. The answer to this question is option D, metonymy. Metonymy is a figure of speech where something is represented by something that is closely associated with it. For example, the White House can be used to represent the US presidency. Also, the crown can be used to represent the king. So you can say the crown is dead, which means the king is dead. So that's an instance of metonymy. The answer to this question is option D. Question 42. Mock heroic poetry elevates A. the beauty in human relationships as exemplified in Homer, B. trivial subject matter by using the style of the classical epic, C. the stripping off of appearances in a witty manner, and D. the important tales of heroes of the past era. So the answer to this question is option B, trivial subject matter by using the style of the classical epic. So a mock heroic poem discusses trivial subject matter, things that are trivial, but it makes use of the style of classical epics such as Homer's Iliad and the Odyssey. So classical epics such as that makes use of elevated language to describe heroic adventures of a hero who goes on an adventure and comes back successful. So it makes use of the style of this classical epic to discuss a trivial, unimportant subject matter. So the answer to this question is option B. Question 43. Lineation refers to A. tracing family descent of people in verse, B. the units in the rhythmic structure of verse, C. the arrangement of lines in verse form, and D. the grouping together of a number of units of rhythm. The answer to this question is option C, the arrangement of lines in verse form. Lineation refers to how we arrange our lines to form verses in a poem. So the arrangement of lines helps to make sure that the message gets through to the reader. So you have to determine what sort of arrangement you need in order to ensure that the message is properly structured within the lines of the poem. So lineation is that arrangement of lines in verse form. The answer to this question is option C. Question 44. He would hear the heavy, uneven breathing of the child. It was as if she were carrying a weight with great effort up a long hill. He prayed again, "Father, look after her, give her peace. Take away my peace forever, but give her peace." So this excerpt is from Graham Greene's The Heart of the Matter. The man's reaction to the presence of the dying child shows that he is A. tolerant, B. compassionate, C. prayerful, and D. loving. The answer to this question is option B, compassionate. Although we'll see a lot of these other features in the excerpts, we can see that he's tolerant. He's also prayerful in the sense that he prayed for the father to take away the pain that the child is feeling. We also notice that he's also loving in the sense that he's willing to do everything to ensure that the child gets through the suffering that she's going through. But the answer to this question is compassionate, because the definition of compassionate has two elements. First of all, it has the awareness of the suffering of others. We can see that in the poem. He would hear the heavy, uneven breathing of the child, and he also compares it to something that is very vivid. It was as if she was carrying a weight with great effort up a long hill. This shows that he's deeply aware of the suffering that she's facing. Then the other element is the desire to relieve that suffering. We can see that in his prayer. He prayed again, "Father, look after her, give her peace. Take away my peace forever, but give her peace." So that shows his desire to relieve her suffering. So the fact that those two elements are there in the excerpt shows that he is compassionate. The answer to this question is option B, compassionate. Do you have a question? Please feel free to ask your question by going down to the link in the description below. This takes you to the Myschool website where you can ask your question and the solution will be provided to you within a short period of time. Now to question 45. In Umuaro, it is not our custom to refuse a call. Although we may refuse to do what the caller asks, Ezeolu does not want to refuse the white man's call, and so he is sending his son. This excerpt is from Chinua Achebe's Arrow of God. The lines above illustrate the use of A, deep metaphor, B, extended proverb, C, traditional parable, and D, local color. The answer to this question is option B, extended proverb. A proverb is a saying that expresses deep wisdom and an understanding of cultural norms. And we can see that in this excerpt. It talks about how it is not the custom of the people to refuse a call, but they may refuse to do what the caller asks. This is a cultural norm, the norm of the Igbo people as it is described in Arrow of God. However, it is an extended proverb in the sense that it does not only reflect the norms, the cultural norms of the people, but it goes beyond that and exemplifies how this cultural norm is actually used in Igbo society. So Ezeolu does not want to refuse the white man's call, and so he is sending his son. This shows that he's actually practicing the cultural norms of the people. So that is what makes it an extended proverb. It extends through to the end of the excerpt. The answer to this question is option B, extended proverb. Do you have a better explanation or solution to any of these questions? If you do, please go down to the comment section below, indicate the question number and the solution you'd like to share. Question 46. Those who have nothing but guns for the hungry and think of nothing but death and dying, let them spend our earth's fortune harvesting blood from the fields of war. The last banquet shall be their children's blood. So this excerpt is from Kofi Ayidoho's Blood Harvest. The stanza above succinctly presents the A, problem of war, B, problem of hunger, C, folly of soldiers, and D, repercussion of violence. The answer to this question is option D, repercussion of violence. So this excerpt presents the deadly consequences of war. It talks about how those who have nothing but guns for the hungry and think of nothing but death and dying, they should spend our earth's fortune harvesting blood from the fields of war. It says that those who think of nothing but war and violence, that they should learn that they will spend the rest of the earth's fortune trying to reap the consequences of the war and the violence that they've perpetrated on the earth. So he also talks about how this impact of the war and violence does not impact only the generation now, but also the future generation. He says how the last banquet shall be their children's blood. So it shows that violence and war does not have deadly consequences only on the present generation, but also on the future generation. The answer to this question is option D, repercussion of violence. Question 47. Thus, creating till a cast off of my land, I sing and fare. Person to loved one pressed, braced for this pressure, and a captor's hand that snaps off service like a weathered strand. This excerpt is from Denis Brutus's A Troubadour I Traverse. In the lines above, the poet's persona expresses A, defiance, B, resignation, C, fear, and D, sorrow. The answer to this question is option A, defiance. So the poem says, creating till a cast off of my land. The word creating is derived from Don Quixote, a character in an old English novel that is very adventurous, that continues to move on despite the challenges that he faces in his social environment. So this shows an act of defiance, the ability to defy expectations and continue to move on despite challenging circumstances. So this particular poet's persona continues to move on. He says, thus creating till the cast off of my land, I sing and fare. I continue to move on. Person to loved one pressed, braced for this pressure. I am ready for whatever challenges come my way. And the captor's hand that snaps off service like a weathered strand. So all of this shows that though his oppressor is willing to break him down, that he's not going to yield, he's going to continue to defy the challenging situation that he finds himself in. So the answer to this question is option A, defiance. Question 48. Africa, my Africa, of proud warriors in ancestral savannas, I have never known you, but your blood flows in my veins, your beautiful black blood that irrigates the fields. This excerpt is from David Diop's Africa. In the lines above, Diop uses A, personification, B, metaphor, C, simile, and D, onomatopoeia. The answer to this question is option B, metaphor. Metaphor is a figure of speech that compares one thing to another in order to make the idea that the poet is trying to express more clear in the minds of the readers. So although it may feel like personification is used, because in David Diop's Africa, there is the use of a lot of personification in the sense that Africa is personified. But in this particular excerpt, there is no use of personification. Rather, metaphor is being used. We can see that in the last line, your beautiful black blood that irrigates the fields. That's the use of metaphor. David Diop is comparing Africa's blood, the blood that is flowing through her vein, to how a land is irrigated. So when you irrigate a land, the crops begin to grow, just as when Africa, that spirit of Africanism continues to develop in the minds of Africans. So you can see that metaphor is used in this line. The answer to this question is option B, metaphor. Question 49. Linda, hearing Willie outside the bedroom, calls with some trepidation. Willie. Willie says, it's all right, I came back. Then Linda says, why? What happened? Then there is a slight pause. Did something happen, Willie? Willie says, no, nothing happened. So this excerpt is from Otto Miller's Death of a Salesman. Linda's words above express a feeling of A, darkness and horror, B, fear and sadness, C, fear and anxiety, and D, suspicion and shock. The answer to this question is option C, fear and anxiety. You can see that in the first line of the play. So we can see that Linda, hearing Willie outside the bedroom, she calls out with some trepidation. Trepidation means that she's afraid because she doesn't know what was going on. It looks like Willie had stepped out and he came back unexpectedly. So she's shouting his name. Then he now tried to allay her fear, saying, it's all right, I came back. But then she begins to ask why, what happened, did something happen again? There is fear, there is anxiety in her voice because she doesn't know why he came back early. But again, he assures her that no, nothing happened. So fear and anxiety is the answer to this question, option C. Question 50. Again, we have the excerpt from the previous question. Willie's first words show that his coming back is A, ill-timed, B, too early, C, not expected, and D, normal. The answer to this question is option C, not expected. We can see that in the third line. Why? What happened? There is a slight pause. Did something happen, Willie? So she wasn't expecting Willie to come back so early. So she's asking if something terrible had happened. So it shows that Willie had come back unexpectedly. So the answer to this question is option C, not expected. I believe you're enjoying this content. If yes, please do not forget to hit the like button, click on the subscribe button, and lastly, tap on the notification bell to get informed as soon as we release the next videos.